This song is kind of romanticized, but not in the way you think. Really isn't any artist. The muse is the artist. It's just art creating itself. Taylor Swift is an excellent architect of the bridge, but she's also the master of setting the vibe. It's not romanticizing something like this, like, it's romanticizing something in a sharper way. Him being the one is not what the song is about. It's not important. The song "Slut" with quotation marks and an exclamation point by Taylor Swift was kind of a surprise. The song title alone was shocking for a lot of us. I feel like the expectations we had for this song were very different from the reality. The diction present in the song title, just the words, is a negatively charged word. The exclamation point intensifies this connotation, and the fact that this is Taylor Swift is something that adds more robustness to the shookness that we're feeling. It took her many years to drop an F-bomb in her music. For those reasons, I feel like going in for the first listen, a majority of us were expecting something more dark, perhaps more sinister. For me, I was thinking there was going to be some mild Reputation vibes. I thought maybe it was going to be like Vigilante, but it wasn't. This song is very soft. It is really cute. It's very sad. It's incredibly somber. It's very delicate and intricate. I want to listen to this song while applying blush because it emotionally feels like blush. It's cute. It is kind of shy and reserved, and it's just adorable to listen to. The lyrics are incredibly intimate. Instead of a sharp dagger, this song is shy cotton candy. In this video, we're going to be analyzing the song. We're going to be talking about the literary devices present in this song. We're going to be talking a lot about diction, which is word choice, and the connotations of these words. What emotions do they give out? And how all of that ties into how we feel about this song as a whole. OMG, we got a lot to do. Let's get started. This song title is really interesting. I made a vertical video about the song title and the use of quotation marks. I will play it here. Let's talk about the quotation marks and the song title "Slut" by Taylor Swift from 1989, Taylor's version. There are two ways to interpret these quotation marks. Quotation marks can be used to depict a direct quote, or they can be used as what's called a scare quote, where what's being quoted is actually meant to be read in an ironic tone. An example. There's a cute little puppy dog and there is a beware of dog sign right next to them. The word beware on the sign is in quotes, but there's literally nothing to be scared of because the dog is literally harmless. That's ironic and it's comical. So in the song title, we can interpret it in both ways at the same time. It can be a direct quote from the people that were shaming the protagonist, but at the same time, from the protagonist's perspective, this is in quotation marks because it's simply not true. It's ironic. It's comical. You could argue this puts a little bit more power back in the protagonist's hands. Let me know what you think and make sure to follow for more lyric analyses from yours truly. Okay, bye. I personally interpret the use of the quotation marks both ways at the same time. I would love to know what you think. I also want to talk about the exclamation point because it brings more intensity to this word. It also brings more pain and anger into the situation. If we view this word as being directed towards the protagonist, it maybe alludes to the great number of people that were calling her that. I think the song title is meant to have shock value, and before you listen to the song, it sets up a more intense sort of expectation. However, what I enjoy about this song is while the protagonist could have portrayed her feelings in a more angry and dark way, she is expressing herself in a softer way, which is more intimate, and it really shows how people's words and the narrative around someone can affect them in an emotional way. Verse 1. Verse 1 sets the vibe. Taylor Swift is an excellent architect of the bridge, but she's also the master of setting the vibe. We have a series of images here, and these images connote a feeling and an emotion. This song is kind of romanticized, but not in the way you think. When I think about romanticizing something, I think about a rose-colored lens. I think about a very soft rose color. Here, the colors are very vivid. They are incredibly saturated. To me, this brings forth a youthful sort of feeling, not of a child, but of like a young adult from like 19 to 21 or maybe 22. I get a youthful connotation from the colors here because we have flamingo pink, which is very vivid. We have aquamarine, which is a very great movie and also a very vivid color. And then we're gonna have tangerine neon later on in this song. All of these colors together give me a summer vibe, and they also connote a youthful, romanticized existence. It's not romanticizing something like this, like, it's romanticizing something in a sharper way, in a slightly more mature way, but still a little bit naive. Those are the vibes that I'm getting. Flamingo pink, sunrise, boulevard, clink, clink. It's actually clink, clink. Being this young is art. Aquamarine, moonlit swimming pool. What if all I need is you? Sunrise Boulevard could be an actual boulevard. It could be an actual place. It could be a place within someone's imagination, within an intangible realm. When I hear the word sunrise, I intuitively think of soft colors. I think about the beginning of a day, which is positive. This is a positive image if we want to interpret it through more of like an imagery, literary analysis lens instead of as a literal place. Sunrise is positive. There's lots of possibility. Something is beginning. Maybe a romance is budding. And the colors that accompany sunrise, they're very soft and very beautiful. Clink, clink. This is the sound of two champagne glasses when someone cheers. So that brings forth a feeling of celebration. Makes me think of people going out and having a good time. Then we have the lyric, being this young is art. I feel like that's going to be a lot of people's Instagram captions, and I fully support that. There are certain things that only exist within your youth. This is not a novel concept, but things never stay the same. You can't ever feel the same way again. You can remember how you felt, but to feel it in the exact same way again is nearly impossible. Even if you look at pictures, even if you took videos, even if you had a specific playlist for that era, you can never feel the same way that you felt. Everything is always evolving and changing. When you are young, there are certain things that are very magical and are very wondrous, seem very serendipitous. There's also, of course, conceptually a lot of possibility and potential that is tied to youth. I would argue that possibility and potential can be tied to any age, even when you're older. But I think within, the culture and within society, it's more connected to your adolescence. When it says being this young is art, it makes me think of something that flows and is effortlessly art. For this protagonist, being young is bringing in this sort of energy where things are unfolding in a very magical and cool way. It's just art creating itself. Really isn't any artist. The muse is the artist, and they are in a constant flow of creation. That's what youth is for them. Aquamarine, moonlit swimming pool. I'm thinking that the color of the swimming pool is aquamarine. However, if it's like nighttime because there's the moon, I don't think you could tell that it's aquamarine, but maybe our protagonist just like knows that because they were there during the day. I'm getting some small dashes of passion here. They're in a swimming pool and it's at night, right? So they spent the whole day maybe partying, doing fun things. Now they're going to be swimming at night. The word moonlit can be romantic. The moon is often associated with romance. To me, I'm just thinking about someone really having like a whole day of fun with someone. I'm getting summer vibes here. What if all I need is you? The protagonist is becoming infatuated with someone. The reason I say infatuated is because there's some, like I said, dashes of passion here. If you watch my Lana Del Rey analyses, you will have noticed that I talk about passion a lot in my Lana Del Rey analyses. That passion is like dangerous passion that can become unbalanced and like terrifying, literally and metaphorically. That's not the same type of passion I'm sensing here. The passion here is like cute, but it isn't like true. You can't trust the initial stages of passion. You just can't. You can enjoy them, but like, don't misinterpret them as something stable. But I feel like the protagonist is becoming infatuated with someone because they're having these really elevated experiences with them. And I think there's a lot of chemistry here. They're able to spend the whole day together and they're going from one place to another to another. It's flowing really well. The vibes are just vibing. Flamingo pink, aquamarine. The vibes are vibing. Verse 2. So verse 1 set the vibe. Verse 2, we are seeing that all that glitters may not be gold. We're getting a peek underneath here. We're getting to see the emotional state of the protagonist. The thesis statement of this verse for me is the last line that says, I'll pay the price you won't. What we're going to do, we're going to define a few words in verse 2, and then we're going to talk about how they lead us to that thesis statement. Dictionaries at the ready. Let's define some words. Love struck is to be powerfully affected by feelings of romantic love for someone, to be deeply in love. A synonym for love struck is to be infatuated. Remember I mentioned that earlier? An infatuation is not love. The diction love struck here to me feels a little bit juvenile. And I don't mean that in a negative way. I just mean that this is a younger person. That's how I'm interpreting it, with the colors, with the vibe, with everything. Perhaps also because it literally says being this young is art. And if you look at the definition of love struck, the example it has literally says a love struck teenager. I feel like our emotions mellow out as you get older. There's more like reason and logic involved. When you're younger, everything is just more dramatic and more intense. The diction love struck to me is a very vibrant sort of word. It's also vivid, like the colors we have: flamingo pink, aquamarine, tangerine neon. Also, looking at the word love struck, the word struck reminds me of the word strike, like a lightning strike. There's a saying that lightning cannot strike the same place twice. This brings forth an element of fate. And when there's a vibe of fate, things seem more profound and more valuable. Also reminds me of Wonderstruck, that lyric, or should I say that diction from the song Enchanted. I am not saying these songs are related at all. I am just talking about the diction here. Love struck, wonderstruck. When I think about the song Enchanted, which I love so much, I'm an Enchanted stan through and through. Wonderstruck, it's very fantastical. It's like a fairy tale, which is a little bit cuter than Love Struck, which is a little bit more mature. But the word struck here, it has that sort of faded energy in it. I feel like if someone is love struck, they are overpowered by their emotions. Their emotions are controlling them, not the other way around. Let's look at the lyric this word is in. It says, got love struck, went straight to my head. So the protagonist's emotions, love struck, is affecting her mind and her ability to think. There is no logic here, which as a Virgo rising, I do not stand. Lovesick. Lovesick means in love, missing the person one loves so much that one is unable to act normally. You can also think of it as longing for someone or having a desire for a romantic love. Again, in the example for this definition, it says a lovesick teenager. This is associated with youth and with young love. Let's look at the lyric this is in. Got lovesick all over my bed. This is such a cool lyric. It's very sad. It's so clever. Lovesick has a negative connotation. I'm thinking of someone who's very much overtaken by the feeling of love, or shall I say by a subset of love. This is not true love in my opinion. It's like a flavor of love. I think Flavor of Love is also the name of that show with Flavor Flav. Not what we're talking about here. When I think about someone getting sick over their bed, I think about them being in bed because they're not feeling well and then they throw up on their bed. That's what I think about. But here we have the word love glued onto the word sick. And when I think about love in the context of a bed, I think about someone literally making love. So the location in which the protagonist was physically intimate with the love interest is also the location that is making her sick. She is in too much love with this love interest. It is not good for her. It is affecting her ability to think and to be logical. When I heard this lyric, I did think about the carve your name into my bedpost lyric that we had on Reputation. This is a completely different vibe, right? This love interest has a very different effect on the protagonist when they're in the bed as opposed to the love interest on Reputation. The bed here is more so associated with a negative subset of love, flavor of love. I think it's more one-sided and the protagonist is into the love interest more. Love to Think You'll Never Forget is giving Say You'll Remember Me, standing in a nice dress, looking at the sunset. Babe from Wildest Dreams.mp3. Handprints in wet cement. I think that's how the protagonist feels about this. When there are handprints in wet cement, the handprints will remain there forever. For the protagonist, she's gonna remember this forever. Her heart is like wet cement and he's like touching the heart, doing things here. She's marked for life. She's gonna remember it. For him, it could be like a whiteboard and not wet cement. She's like drawing on his heart with a dry erase marker, but he can erase it really easily. So she is more invested than he is. The next lyric is really interesting. Adorned with smoke on her clothes. The word adorned is usually present in a positive context. I think about someone being adorned with jewels and jewelry. Has a elegant, elevated sort of connotation usually. However, here the protagonist is being adorned with smoke on her clothes. I'm thinking that the protagonist is in like a club or a bar and there's people smoking around her. That setting is not romantic or cute, but perhaps it's romantic because of the context, because of the person the protagonist is with. Because he's there, the smoke isn't bothering the protagonist. It's not causing her clothes to smell bad forever and ever. It's an adornment. It's a elevated, elegant sort of decor that comes with this experience with the love interest. This to me is painting how the protagonist feels when she's with the love interest. She is really taken by him. That even gross smoke is not bothering her. She's like chill with it and viewing it as super cute jewelry. Lovelorn and nobody knows. Let's look up lovelorn. It means unhappy because of unrequited love. Again, the example in the definition refers to a teenager. The diction lovelorn here reinforces the fact that this is one-sided right now. This love for the protagonist, although overpowering and intense, is one-sided. This lyric is really cool. It says, love thorns all over this rose. In this verse, we're constantly having a juxtaposition of something that's supposed to be positive, like the word and idea of love juxtaposed with something that's in opposition to that and that's negative. A rose, I'm thinking of a red rose here, is synonymous with love and passion. But the word love here is not associated with the rose. It's associated with the thorns on the rose. And these thorns, they have a qualifier. They're love thorns. They're love thorns. This is so clever. This is so satisfying. The rose is not a symbol of the relationship. The thorns are the symbol of the relationship. So the overarching theme of this relationship was that of pain. There was some love there, but the focus is on the pain. This is further confirmed by the last lyric of this verse that says, I'll pay the price, you won't. Meaning that when this fizzles out, the love interest here is going to be chill, like he's going to be good to go. The protagonist is going to be heartbroken and will probably be healing from this for a long time. I want to point out the repetition of the word love here. The word love by itself is not repeated, but it's part of words here. Love struck, love sick, and love lorn. The times that the word love is mentioned here within these words has a negative connotation. This is kind of opposing to the idea of love. This is not something that you would expect to feel when you are with someone that you care for. You would want to feel love, just the prefix of that word. You don't want the rest. But we have the word love mentioned so many times. I think it's just very ironic. This situation is not positive for the protagonist at all. The protagonist does have awareness. This is in present tense, right? I will pay the price, you won't. She saw the end before she began. Is Wildest Dreams also about Haylor? I don't know. And you guys, I usually don't ever talk about who I think songs are about, but at this point, I don't even know. IDK. Chorus. I want to briefly touch upon the cultural context of Taylor Swift during the pre-1989 era and the 1989 era. Her dating life was under speculation a lot. It was more intense than it is currently. In a Vogue interview, Taylor Swift literally said that she was the lightning rod for S-shaming. So she definitely felt the scrutiny. I remember her in an interview saying something along the lines of, you know, she was a young woman, she was dating how a young woman would date, but because she was in the public eye, it was interpreted in a different sort of way. A lot of those experiences that Taylor had, I would imagine, are the subtext of this song, right? To have your pretty much like character and your integrity questioned based on who you're dating and how many people the public thinks you're dating, that's something that can affect you really deeply. That's why within these lyrics, the protagonist is saying, well, if they call me that, you know, it finally might be worth it, because she's so used to people calling her that. And I am censoring this word just because of the platform we're on. I don't think that we should always censor words, especially within art, especially within this song in particular. This word is used with a purpose, but it's mainly just due to the platform that we're on. So that's why. But if I'm all dressed up, they might as well be looking at us. And if they call me, you know, it might be worth it for once. Let's concentrate on that for now. Here in the chorus, there is a feeling of a gentle sort of resolve. It's like an internal resolve with the self. This is the protagonist's internal monologue. This is her going through these thoughts, thinking about how her actions are going to be perceived by the public, and kind of having an internal debate about if it's worth it or not, or if she is going to care or not. That's what these lines here are making me think of. Protagonist is pretty much saying, F it, whatever. I don't care what they say anymore. If I'm dressed up, they might as well be looking at me. Let me actually do the things that they say that I'm doing, or make it look like I'm doing the things, and actually enjoy myself. People are going to talk either way. The protagonist had such strong feelings for this love interest that to them, they didn't care if people were going to start talking and shaming her. They accepted that as a possible outcome, and they didn't feel the need to hide away from this person in this relationship. I'm putting relationship in quotes because this seems very one-sided, but but this is how much the protagonist liked this person. Verse 1 really did a good job of setting up the energy of this song. I keep going back to that when I am met with lyrics about how intense this love is for the protagonist. To me, the foundation for this love is not stable because of the imagery of the colors, specifically the two colors in verse 1, and because of all of the connotations I spoke about in regards to verse 1. The protagonist is feeling these things and thinking these things about the love interest, but the foundation is wonky. It's never going to work. There's no stability here, and I'm happy that the protagonist feels like she can live her life without caring what people say. But to me, this is still kind of sad because this relationship wasn't the one. However, counterpoint, does a relationship have to be the one for you to get something beneficial out of it and for it to be a growing experience? Absolutely not. You learn from people every day and you grow as a person from each friendship or relationship you have. So even though this love interest was not the one for the protagonist, we can think about this as a positive experience because this relationship allowed the protagonist to kind of free herself of the chains of what people will think. And when it says it might be worth it for once, this shows us that this sort of narrative is something that's been following the protagonist for a while. It suggests that this narrative has hindered the protagonist from doing things in her life. She has made life decisions with that narrative in mind. And if I'm going to be drunk, I might as well be drunk in love. A much more eloquent way to say F it. If they're saying I'm doing something, I might as well look like I'm doing something and enjoy myself. If I'm going to be drunk, if I'm going to be in an unbalanced, altered state, I talked about altered states in my analysis of Cruel Summer by Taylor Swift. I'll link it below. The situation is not 100% positive for the protagonist. These people are always going to be saying these things about her, but she is coming to the realization that she might as well enjoy herself. She's not going to give those other people all of the power. She has to live her life. Verse 3. Send the code. He's waiting there. This is like Spy Kids 4. Are there more than 3 Spy Kids movies? I have no idea. What I think this is referring to is just literally the code for a gate to get to the protagonist's home. I think that's very literal. Send the code, he's waiting there. Midnight comes and picks me up, no headlights. The sticks and stones they throw froze midair. I really like that lyric. There's a saying that sticks and stones may break your bones, but words will never hurt you. That saying suggests that words cannot harm you the same way that physical objects or physical harm will harm you. So in that saying, we have sticks and stones, something physical, being compared to words which are intangible. Tangible, intangible. However, here the protagonist is referring to the sticks and stones, the tangible entities that the other people, that society are throwing at her. Society is not throwing literal objects at her, they're throwing around words and rumors. Protagonist here is saying that these words and rumors and this labeling of her as a is causing her physical harm. And I do think it gets to a point with words that they do hurt, even though they're intangible. When words or ideas are repeated over and over again, and they're being directed at you and you're constantly aware of it, of course it's gonna have an effect, and that can hurt really badly. I get what the protagonist is saying here, and the fact that she's taking that saying and she's saying that she has sticks and stones thrown at her to illustrate how physical this pain is for her. I think that's really clever and that's really satisfying to analyze. Here, the love interest is kind of like a cure. He's kind of like a suit of armor for the protagonist because the sticks and stones that these people are throwing, the people who are calling her whatever, their words just froze in midair. There's like a force field around the protagonist. There is something protecting her now, and that's the love or the infatuation that she has for this person. Everyone wants him, that was my crime. I love that lyric too. These two lyrics in succession are just wonderful. Everyone wants him, that was my crime. The wrong place at the right time, and I break down, then he's pulling me in a world of boys. He's a gentleman. This is a really good verse. Everyone wants him, that was my crime. The protagonist now, in my opinion, is referring to another line of dialogue by the public where there was a lot of hatred towards her for dating a very high-profile celebrity. Here, I think she is trying to say that she didn't really do anything. She just dated someone that everyone else wanted. For her to simply date him makes her the villain without her actually doing anything. That's what's being referred to here. This is showing that while this relationship has some positive benefits for the protagonist, like deciding to live her life even though people are going to talk badly about her, and those metaphorical sticks and stones freezing in midair, those positives are also existing alongside negatives. She has new people now directing a lot of hatred towards her for dating someone that everyone wants. Let's look at the diction here. The word crime, that's very intense, right? The backlash that she was experiencing for dating this person was very heavy. She was in the wrong place at the right time. She met him in the wrong place, which for her was positive because she likes this person, but in the macro world and society, it was the wrong place because she has new hatred that is being funneled towards her. The protagonist breaks down and he pulls her in a world of boys, he's a gentleman. Those are very beautiful lyrics. The protagonist is finding comfort with this love interest, and it sounds like he did treat her well. Based on the other songs about this relationship, like I heard you were out and about with some other girl, what you heard is true, but I can't stop thinking about you. I don't think that like this relationship just wasn't stable. And as Taylor has said, the relationships that these songs are about, that I think are Haler songs, allegedly, they were about a relationship that keeps falling apart and coming back together. To hear that this person was a gentleman towards her and treated her with respect is very wonderful to hear. And I am happy for her. I'm happy for anyone that has someone that is a gentleman in a sea of boys. Verse 4. Verse 4 is parallel to verse 2, so we have repetition of some lyrics. The difference between these two verses is that in verse 2 it says, I'll pay the price, you won't. In verse 4 it says, we'll pay the price, I guess. So we're going from I to we, which is a good progression, right? There is more of a feeling of togetherness here. Maybe this is becoming less one-sided. Maybe the love interest is starting to catch some feelings. The word I guess is very conditional, and I love that it's here because this depicts a state of unsureness. Is that a word? They're not sure. They are not definite in their emotions and their stance on this situation. They're like, I guess we'll pay the price. We'll see. It kind of connotes a feeling of slight defeat. And we have repetition of the chorus, and then we have the bridge. Half asleep, taking your time in the tangerine neon light. This is luxury. When it says half asleep, taking your time, I think about the protagonist and the love interest having like another weekend together or a vacation together. They're lounging around, they're taking naps, or maybe love interest is waking up after they spent a night together. But it's those tender, intimate moments when you're waking up with someone. Taking your time suggests that they have time, right? So this is like a weekend or a vacation. In the tangerine neon light, this is luxury. When I initially heard this lyric, I thought about like a club, you know, where there's like smoke that's adorning the protagonist. However, we can also think about the sun because the sun has yellow rays. We interpret it as yellow. And yellow is like kind of close to orange, kind of. Bear with me here. When you're like a kid and you draw the sun, you sometimes like color in orange with the yellow, okay? So the protagonist could be viewing the sun as like saturated. Maybe she is depicting that as tangerine neon here, which would make the setting kind of otherworldly here. And that goes with the vibes of verse 1 that I was talking about. I don't know if that's the intent or not, but that's one avenue you can take with this if you want. I think it would be really cool to interpret it in that way. I mean, I just did interpret it in that way, but I don't know if I like believe it for my own personal interpretation, but I just wanted to mention it. I thought that was cool. Let me know if you have thoughts about that down below. Taylor, if you're watching, let me know if that was the intent. Or you can also think about it as a club. This is luxury. So luxury here is not going to a fancy restaurant or going somewhere that's very expensive. They probably are in a very fancy, expensive place. The luxury here is referring to the time that they're spending together. This is reminding me of Reputation again. King of my heart. All those Land Rovers and Jaguars don't take me where you do. Interesting, I've been thinking about Reputation a few times throughout this song. Themes pop up between Taylor Swift songs, that's natural. Does not mean that they're related. So spending time with this person is rich. It's something of value and something that is like a delicacy, something to be enjoyed. You're not saying you're in love with me, but you're going to. They have not said I love you yet, but he's gonna say it. Half awake, taking your chances. At the beginning it said half asleep and now it's half awake. So now the focus here is on alertness, on being awake. While being in this half alert state, the love interest is deciding to move forward and take their chances. I think he has more of an understanding of the situation he's in with the love interest and the gossip and the culture, the pop culture vibes around her, but he's still deciding to move forward. It's a big mistake. I said it might blow up in your pretty face. I'm not saying do it anyway, but you're going to. The love interest now seems to be all in, or like closer to being all in, but the protagonist is kind of tapping the brakes a little bit and telling him, like, make sure, understand what you're getting into. He seems pretty adamant about wanting to move forward. Drive this metaphorical car and not tap on the brakes, but tap on the gas, and he probably has his headlights off. Outro. And if they call me, you know, it might be worth it for once. And if I'm gonna be drunk, I might as well be drunk in love. This song ends with the protagonist's inner dialogue. She doesn't give us a resolution about this. This song is about the protagonist coming to the realization that she still wants to live her life, no matter what everyone says, even if they say hurtful things and label her as something hurtful, she still wants to enjoy her life and do what's gonna make her happy. This song ends with like a whatever, F it sort of sentiment. It doesn't really matter if this person is the one, it doesn't matter if this relationship is gonna last. The verse before this was talking about the love interest being all in, but him being the one is not what the song is about. It's not important. What's important is the protagonist allowing herself to live her life and to let her emotions and her wants and desires and her own logic guide her, and not the whisperings of society. That's all I have for this song. Please let me know what you think in the comments below. Thank you as always for watching. I really appreciate it. Tell me what your favorite song from The Vault is, and I'll see you next time. Bye!